Everyone, welcome to the inside of the Lexus RX500h F Sport Performance, a lengthy name for a pretty interesting high-end vehicle from Lexus. This is their now flagship vehicle, believe it or not, and it is a interesting vehicle. It's a blend of a lot of loves and a lot of interesting points where I think I have a little bit of some contentions to, especially for a $70,000 plus price point. Nonetheless, though, we are going to take this SUV on a drive today. If you haven't checked out my full tour and review, definitely go check that out to have a in-depth look at all of the fun features in here. But let's go take a quick tour on the exterior before we go pop this thing on a drive. We have electronic door handles on the RX now for 2024, and it is in a bold shade of the new Lexus copper Crest paint, which I honestly quite like. We have F Sport Performance wheels on this one. These are alloy wheels, aluminum alloy wheels, 21 inches in a matte black. They're a little dirty here. We have performance brakes, performance calipers, Lexus branded calipers with a black paint on them. Bridgestone tires here. Honestly, not my favorite. We'll touch on that a little bit in this driving portion of the review. I think it looks quite fresh, quite clean. Let me know what you guys think of the comments down below. You know, for a flagship performance vehicle, or at least flagship vehicle from Lexus in the RX lineup, I think this is a good looking product, though performance wise, for this price point, I think it could be doing a little bit better, though it does offer a lot of good features. We have that direct four-wheel drive system, which we'll touch on, rear steering even, and of course we have those electronic door handles here. Pretty interesting. F Sport side sill plates. We're on right now. As it is a hybrid, it's pretty quiet most of the time. See a nice little view of our energy flow here with our battery pack and our 2.4 liter actually turbocharged 4-cylinder engine we have up front. Let's go back to that energy flow screen, and well, let's head off. Now, putting this thing into drive is pretty interesting. We have a very odd feeling and operating shifter here. So to put it into drive, you go left, down. That puts it into drive. To go into reverse, you go left, up. Neutral's one left, and to put it into manual mode, you can pop it all the way down, I believe, and that puts it into manual mode when you're in motion. You have to be in drive, then you can go into manual mode, and then to go back to drive, you have to do that operation there. So pretty funky. We have a auto hold button, traction control, and I believe this is a mode that kind of lets you know that we're on like an off-road style pavement, and it will kind of turn off a lot of the safety systems so they're not constantly activating. Wireless charger mat down here, wireless CarPlay, really fantastic camera systems, I do have to say, though. The resolution could be a little bit better on some of the cameras, though. The cameras themselves are really high quality, and they do work quite well, I will have to point out there. Especially when you're going forwards, you have this really cool camera layout where if I press, I believe, this view here, it will kind of map the ground underneath me, as well as show me the tires when you're making a turn. It will even do this as well. Check that out. Really cool touch there from Lexus. So I really appreciate this new camera system, and you can even have it in an automatic setting. So if you come up to an intersection where there's crossing traffic, it will both alert you that there's crossing traffic and pop up that front camera for you, which is fantastic. We also have a parking assistant feature right there, so it's gonna notice some spaces we can see to our right here. I'm going to come to a stop. I think it should be able to find a space. I'm going to select this one, press start here, and let's see if it puts us into the spot easily. So it's steering right now. I'm actually not even changing the gears. It just put it into reverse for me as well. It tilted the mirrors down, and it's now parking into the space. Completely hands-free, guys. Check that out, and it's doing a pretty good job of it. Now, this is a pretty open parking lot, if you can see here, so I think it's easier. I think it'd be a little more of a challenge to do a parallel parking space, but look at that. It is doing pretty well, and it notes that there's a wall there. Put it into park, and voila, that is it. It parked itself pretty well. It does a little 360 for you in this interesting fashion there, but we're all set. We can go on to drive now. So let's hop into our screen again to kind of see our energy flow, and let's hop out onto the roads. Now, this RX F Sport Performance has a few interesting features that are actually unique to the F Sport Performance moniker, and that's particularly the rear wheel steering, which is going to turn the rear wheels in a slight degree angle into an opposite direction, some low speed situations to give you better of a turning radius, and in higher speed cornering as well as highway, just changing lane situations, it will actually turn the wheels in the same direction as the front wheels to give you a little bit more stability in that respect. Point. So as we can see there, it's pretty potent off the line, and it really does get you up to speed quite quickly. 60 miles per hour happens around the 5 to 6 second range, which is not bad. A little bit of some traction loss from the front wheels there, as all of that torque from that turbocharged 4-cylinder is going to those front wheels only, so that rear end is only working off of that pretty potent electric motor. But you know, the F-Sport performance moniker in this thing is really honestly, in my opinion, a lot of marketing material. This isn't really a performance-driven vehicle at the end of the day. You know, I have to give it strong points for the steering. I think they did a really good job with this steering system. It's direct, but good weight and good light. So honestly, it's a pretty good point in this. I think the rear wheel steering is actually aiding that in this particular vehicle, as well as the torque vectoring direct 4 all-wheel drive system. You also have a custom drive mode as well. But the suspension setup, even with these adaptive dampers, is just still purely just comfort feeling, comfort focus. It still feels more like a plush luxury SUV, even in the stiffer suspension setting. And even in eco and normal mode, I have to say, it just does what I think a Lexus RX should do. It has good body control. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of lean or roll, but it's still very soft in its application, and it does a good job of balancing that all the body movements, while also giving you a very comfortable and just good compliant ride. And that also goes tying into the platform that this is based on. This is based on the TNGA-K architecture, which is shared with the Camry, the RAV4, the Toyota Highlander, as well as the Lexus NX. And inherently, it's not a very sporty-ish platform, but I think they're trying their best of what they could with the platform on this particular new RX F-Sport Performance, and I think it's a really good touch for Lexus buyers wanting something a little bit more sporty out of their RX while retaining that hybrid drivetrain, long-term reliability, and resale value of the RX, as well as I think pretty good looks and a lot of technology and features nowadays. But at this price point, when you are looking at competitors and you're cross-shopping vehicles, some of the German vehicles, for example, are just going to be way above and beyond in terms of driving dynamics and performance than this Lexus RX. But where I think the RX does stand out is really its fuel economy. If that's something you're really focused on, it's going to be, I think, unbeatable in this class with the decent amount of power that it has. I think its closest rival, the Acura MDX Type S, with similar power outputs, this is getting like 8, 9, sometimes 10 even miles per gallon more than that vehicle, while providing around similar power outputs as well. And I actually quite like the just general driving dynamics of this vehicle. It is good, it's not bad, it's just not really fulfilling of that performance name. And we're still in sport mode here. You can kind of feel it, or might hear it's a little bit on the stiffer end going over some of these bumps and undulations in the road surfaces here. Brakes are strong, though I have to say the brake pedal feel itself is not very confidence inspiring. It does feel a little bit squishy, but I do know that these brakes are going to stop me because I have strong stopping power with over 15-inch front brake rotors, which is pretty impressive. We also have F-Sport derived general braking calipers and pistons up there as well, which is pretty nice. Now, like I said before, we do have a manual mode if you do choose to drive your F-Sport Performance in manual mode. We go back to that energy flow screen here. We also have an all-wheel drive screen as well. And you can kind of see how this system is distributing its power. So I'm going to pop it into manual mode here. Third gear, we have 6 gears to technically play with here. Whoa. And again, this is not a slow vehicle. I'm not calling this slow at all. It is plenty quick, but pretty impressive for what it is. And I think that electric motor torque from those 2 electric motors in combination with this turbocharged engine is a really good treat to drive around. It's pretty potent, and you feel that power, and the torque is constantly there, getting you up to speed. And even when that battery is low, the engine's going to kick in to kind of charge up the battery to make sure it's always charged, because you have to have that battery charged to even use the rear axle. Now, out here on the highway, though, I think is where the RX starts to come a little bit more alive into its own. When you're on the highway, you're going to be getting that nice cruising speed, and that's where you're going to get some of your best fuel economy out of the RX. Generally, with driving this thing day and day on the basis, I haven't been getting the best fuel economy that I want to see out of a hybrid vehicle. And then I have to remember that this is a performance branded hybrid, and they're kind of wanting to have that power being delivered to you at all times, especially with a turbocharged engine, a 6-speed automatic, versus a CVT and a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that you're going to find in the lower end Lexus RX hybrids. So that kind of made me remind myself that, okay, maybe it's not going to get the best MPG, but it's also pretty good for what it is. But on this highway situation here, this new safety systems 3.0 setup from Lexus is absolutely fantastic. That was one of the strongest points that I loved on the Lexus RZ electric vehicle that I tested in September, and let's just take a little bit of a time to spend on that now. So in here you can kind of see a little bit of a breadth of some of the safety systems you have on this vehicle, and it is everything you could possibly imagine except full hands-free driving. Like, it's everything, and it's really, really good systems. So out here on the highway here, let's say you're on a long road trip, you want to turn on your adaptive cruise control. Very simple here. Hopefully this comes across on camera, but you can see in our heads-up display, these haptic buttons do reveal some more functions up there since they're not particularly labeled over here. So I'm going to turn on our adaptive cruise mode right now. We are now on adaptive cruise in the RX, and this is a really great adaptive cruise system as it is steering itself. So Lexus calls this like curve tracing assist, so it's gonna follow the lines with the cameras over there and will steer you around corners. And it also has lane change assist, so as long as you have a hand on the wheel, I could even just touch it for this demonstration here, it does change lanes for you. So I just hold the lane like this, I'm gonna check my surroundings like the camera says, and it does a full lane change for you, which is really nice. And no, I'm not turning the wheel with my fingers, it does actually do this. I'm gonna do it again one more time for you guys. Check my surroundings, just give it a little bit of force so it knows you're still technically holding the wheel, and it changes lanes for you. Gimmick or not, it's a cool feature and it works pretty well and quick on this RX compared to some other lane change assist functions, which do take their time sometimes to kind of give you that lane change you want. Now out here on the highway, you can see it's really quiet in here. Wind noise is kept to an utmost minimum, I would have to say, on the RX. Really good, just general sound insulation in here as well, so I do like that. I don't really hear any wind buffeting anywhere, or no rattles or anything else interior as well, which is a really great touch as well. And a really cool thing when you have your proactive safety assist feature turned on, so that means it's really kind of constantly monitoring everything around you at all times. Works really well in conjunction with this hybrid system. So let's say you're coming to a stop and it notices there's a vehicle in front of you. I'm just going to speed up just a little bit, try to catch one of these vehicles at a stoplight. You'll notice that it'll actually turn the brake lights on for you. Okay, this person's a little bit bold there. So I'm just coasting right now. It knows there's a vehicle in front of me, and it's now coming to a slow stop for me while regenning. So I think it's kind of noticing that around me to kind of help improve our regen capabilities. Also, it gives you a little bit of an indicator that you're coming to a stop and like, hey, put your foot on the brake pedal so you don't crash into another vehicle. But really cool things that Lexus is kind of developing into this vehicle, and it's great to see them progressing with their technology going forward, especially in this new RX. Let's do a quick test of this Mark Levinson audio system here. I believe it's 21 speakers. If correct me wrong, I'll put the correct number right there. You can see them blended into this nice kind of micro suede style L-shaped trim we have on the side of this particular F Sport performance model, and there's a huge subwoofer out back. And I have to say, this is a generally good audio system. Lexus's Mark Levinson systems really produce a nice, clear, crisp sound. And before we even get into the audio, I'm just going to note that it's not the best in all situations. I think at the higher audio levels, it kind of drowns itself out just a little bit, which I honestly was not expecting. And we're going to get the test out right now for you guys. So we're at around like level 12 here for our audio, and it goes up pretty high, but I'm going to leave it at a mid-level here to kind of give you an idea of what it sounds like here. Raise it up a bit. Okay guys, I just want to lower that down for you for a second, just so we can talk about this audio system right here. And like I said, in this mid audio level and into a little bit in the higher end, I think it sounds pretty clear, very crisp. One thing you can just see here, it did that little thing where that vehicle came in front of me. I did note that out. Sorry for the interruption. On the higher end, it starts to get a little bit drowned out in terms of like the bass notes. Even some of the higher end notes in some different tracks, I've noticed it kind of just gets washed out in just this higher end sound level of volume there. Voices generally do remain quite consistent, though I will note, actually, I have this set up right now with my bass turned up pretty high, and I have to say I'm a little bit unimpressed with the amount of audio settings we get in the RX. There really is not much. Digging through a few menus to find our sound and media settings here. We have our level, sound tuning here. All we can change are our trebles, mid, and bass levels, and that's about it. So that we were just listening to it with the bass turned up, and I'm gonna leave it like that because when the bass is at its mid level, there really is none, which is a little bit disappointing for a vehicle that has all of these speakers, a subwoofer, and it's supposed to offer this really high-end premium sound experience. I personally just wasn't feeling that in this car. It's a great sound system, like I said, at the mid to high, middle, highish levels of audio levels, but on that higher end, if you want to listen to some louder music at a higher end with some really deep bass or a good treble and just clear audios across the board, it's going to fall off a little bit on those marks. If you are listening to something with a little bit more of like a rock or a guitar or a lot of just natural instruments, I think this Mark Levinson system is going to really speak to you more so than someone who's going to like a bass heavy, a lot of electronic music. This might not be the system for you, if I'm going to be completely honest. And I'm just, in general though, I'm a little bit disappointed on the lack of customizability with this particular system. You can change your balance and fade as well, like I mentioned, as well as that, but that's about it. I believe you have to go to a completely different area to turn on and off your surround sound here, which is, I'm not sure why that's not kept under sound tuning. That's just some weird menu quirks there, I guess. This Pilot is cutting right in front of us. Thanks for the warning. But nonetheless, that was my quick review of this Mark Levinson audio system. Is it worth the extra money? Well, I guess it is if it's going to be bundled with this larger display, though if it was a standalone option, if it was a little bit cheaper, I probably would consider it, I think, over the base Lexus RX audio system, which I have not been fortunate enough to test out, though it is a good general system. I just recently came out of a Mercedes GLS with their base version of their Burmester audio system. I honestly would say this does sound better than that. I'm going to be completely honest. That one was just so overly bass heavy in the lower footwell area that it was just literally shaking my legs to the point where it was just uncomfortable in any bass setting that I could pretty much find. But I would, if I'm going to say something to Lexus and Mark Levinson, please introduce some more customizability in your audio controls here. A lot of vehicles at this price point are offering different stage scenes. They're offering way more customizability in their equalizer as well. And I think that's just something you might expect at this price point at over $70,000. So guys, you join me now in traffic with the Lexus RX 500h Sport Performance, and I think this is a good time to kind of just come on a concluding end with the vehicle and how it's been going with me over this past week. We can see we have our full kind of traffic assist pilot now on, which really, oh, it is just fantastic because this is a really great system, especially in these traffic conditions here. Thank you guys for joining me on this video of the 2024 Lexus RX 500h Sport Performance, and as always, stay tuned for more coming on Allcarnews. Cheers.